Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Authentic Sound Podcast. And Stefan is waving to you if you see the video version of this. So today we have an awesome episode prepared for you. We are going to talk about maybe the most iconic piece ever written in music history, which is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And so the question will be like when Beethoven would knock on your door, in what kind of tempo would he knock on your door? And we have two versions for you. Obviously, we will be featuring the version that I made together with Alberto Sanna at the piano and Czerny's incredible transcription at a phenomenal pianoforte. I can say that, although it's my instrument, but I didn't build it. We will listen to that and compare that to John Eliot Gardiner, who is maybe one of the most prominent advocates for single beat versions of Beethoven's music and other music that has metronome marks. So single beat meaning you take the metronome and each tick, each click of the metronome represents a note, the note value of the metronome mark. In whole beat, there's a version that we play in, and we believe that was the version that the 19th century predominantly had in mind. You take two ticks for that note value. So you say 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. So those versions, of course, will be much different, and their listening experience is also much different, in the sense that this is maybe even a more difficult listening experience than we had last time when we had the Adagio of the Pathetique Sonata, where we had a movement that was very slow, one of the slowest maybe. This one, of course, in Gardiner's version, as you will hear, you have a lot of energy, and you have a different kind of energy in our version, less rhythmically pronounced. So there is kind of a challenge in both ways, because also when you go from our version to Gardiner's, you will hear also challenges in listening. So we were going to take you through some spots that we marked that we think are worth your attention. And on top of that, I'm going to talk also, if Stefan allows me, because I'm talking too much sometimes, but we're going to talk about notation here, and stay with us, because it's not going to be super technical in the sense that all of you, of course, if you do not know how to read notes, even then you can follow. There are some basic principles here in notation that, in a way, only makes sense if you adhere to a whole beat metronome version. But that's all for now, for this episode, and much more to come. Stefan, what do you think about my introduction? Did I miss something?
Amazing introduction.
Thank you.
And I mean that by the way, explanation of whole beat and single beat, that was executed to perfection, if I can say that.
I practiced like many hours.
Yeah, you explained whole beat quite a lot. I would assume in your, I don't know how many thousands of YouTube videos you made. But they are not all about whole beat, of course. But
no. But
you also play some music, and apparently some people enjoy your playing as well, especially when you don't play in whole beat.
Do they? Well, lucky me. But
isn't like the most famous video, you playing the Pathetique on your clavichord, which some people might turn around in their graves about that, but
of course,
not to get into that discussion, like what is the right instrument to play Beethoven
definitely this sonata not on clavichord, but of course, let's not make it into a topic on the clavichord, but the clavichord was an instrument that was still prominently there. Beethoven had a clavichord. I mean, did you know that even maybe half a year before he died, there is in this conversation notebook that because Beethoven couldn't hear the responses of, and so people were noting down the things that they wanted to say to him. And his nephew, Carl, wrote the following, something like, I'm quoting freely from memory, like, we need to ask the tuner to come because tomorrow will be somebody here and they will play the clavichord. And it's terribly out of tune. Why would Beethoven tune his clavichord first if he didn't hear anything? Because the clavichord is very soft, so it's not completely true that he was deaf. He had hearing problems, but let me not explain that. But the clavichord was still there. We don't have that instrument anymore. He had another clavichord when he went from Bonn, so his native capital, to Vienna. He got like a goodbye gift from Waldstein, the guy of the Waldstein Sonata.
Who would have guessed that?
Yeah, so he was a count, so like quite wealthy. Later in his life, a little bit less. But anyways, what did he give to Beethoven? He was a clavichord, and that's still possibly still preserved. We're not sure about that. So yeah, the Pathetique on clavichord, it's absolutely possible, but you can feel if you play that piece, you need to do some tricks in order to make it work on the clavichord, because the clavichord says no to very remote keys if if the hand position is not 100% correct. So it was a dangerous question you asked.
Yeah, and I would have stopped you just about now, because otherwise this was going to be a different episode, and we're not going to talk again about the Pathetic Sonata, which we did, I think, in the last podcast that we recorded anew. There we talked about the Adagio of the Pathetic Sonata, and yeah, that was a very interesting episode. And we were just talking before this podcast about it, and I think you named the podcast something very, what's the word?
Clickbaity.
Clickbaity. Thank you. That's a word we can use here, because you said it's like the most difficult listening experience or something in that direction. I don't really remember, if I'm honest.
Something like that. Yeah, of the most slowest piece Beethoven ever.
Yeah, the slowest piece ever. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Something. Yeah, like
and when we just listened to the spots now of the Fifth Symphony, and also from Gardiner, we were like, this is difficult. Firstly, it was really difficult to find the spots in Gardiner because everything is going by so fast.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, you guys will hear that. But when it comes to the Adagio, yeah, it's difficult. It's very slow, but this is, yeah. I will probably get a headache from listening to Gardiner for too long. Sorry, not sorry, but yeah, it's really, once you hear the Fifth Symphony for real, in what we highly suspect is the correct way how to play it, which is whole beat, which Wim just explained. Yeah, the tempo, I mean, of course, and yeah, going back to the other recording from Gardiner, it just feels so ridiculous. But we will experience all these challenges in this podcast. So if you're looking forward to that, then yeah, just stick with us, keep listening, and as always, you will be able to listen to the first movement as we think Beethoven would have imagined it, at least in the tempo, at the end of this podcast. So that's gonna be some fun. And you know which spot I want to talk about as well. You probably know the spot I'm thinking of. My favorite spot in all of the symphonies, the transition from the third to the fourth movement in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. I mean, I can listen to that until I die on repeat. I don't care.
Well, while preparing this and also finding the spots and listening to the music and thinking like, what are we going to talk about? I was thinking like, are we going to do the first movement alone, or are we going to insert also the Stefan moment? But let's do that for another time.
That's my moment. All right.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there is a story to that, but let's save the story for the podcast where we're going to talk about the scherzo on the last movement, because that's indeed phenomenal. For this, but I decided, or we decided together, but I thought like we have enough spots, and also the first movement deserves all of our attention, not only because it's the most iconic motif that's ever written and maybe the most known piece, as I said in the introduction, but also because we can learn a lot. The contrast between Gardiner and our version will be like incredible. And also we're going to touch upon some inconsistencies in Gardiner's version, not to criticize the guy, because I mean, come on, he's a very intelligent person. And I mean, we will dive into some questions that I have in regards to his approach to this music and also the way he communicates, because I have some issues with it. But that's from an intellectual standpoint, not to say that the guy does not know what he's doing. But the contrast is very stark, as you said. It's even the Fifth Symphony in a way. It's remarkable also for our work, because you might think, and it is true, that this is the most challenging recording we can make. And we're not going to make this introduction before we touch upon some music longer than necessary. You will hear that once you hear Gardiner, it's difficult to go back. Because you said, Stefan, it's difficult to listen to. That's true. When you come from our version, you have a little bit of a longer experience, and you go to his version, it's like, it sounds literally as a recording that's played back in twice the speed.
Which it is not, by the way.
Yeah, but when you go back, it's also difficult. You need to adjust. Having said that, the Fifth Symphony, we produced it first on CD alone, and then it came in a box of 10 CDs with all the symphonies. So I have some Fifth Symphony CDs, I have to say.
And on vinyl. Don't forget the vinyl.
The vinyl, yeah. For those of you who like to listen to the full, I mean, let's not start about vinyl recordings. But the Fifth Symphony and CD, I hand them over out quite easily because I mean we're not even selling them again. If I remember on our website, you will know that I don't. So, but I give them to my colleague musicians and say like, just listen, and I get feedback from that. And to my surprise, the feedback is, well, you have a group of people who never talk to me again. Let's say it like that. A little bit of a joke, but not touch upon the symphony. But the people that do, they say like the first minute or two were a shock, and then I couldn't go back. And so, in a way, it is the most difficult listening experience if you know the symphony today, the Fifth Symphony. But also, when you open your mind, it's maybe the easiest one because the message is so powerful. So, without further ado, Stefan, unless you have something to add, maybe we can listen to the opening in our version. And then just go to Gardiner and just have like 45, 50 seconds of our maybe 1 minute, doesn't matter, so that the listener really get a feeling of what we're talking about, and then we can discuss further.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. Just one comment, because you asked me and you didn't give me time to answer the question, as you always do. No worries. I will get back to the answers if I want to. So the Fifth Symphony is still for sale on the website, even as a single CD. But the reason we are not really selling these anymore is, of course, because we have produced a whole box of all 9 symphonies that is way more interesting, of course. Unless you want to have the vinyl explicitly. We do not have that one yet produced as a box of probably like 27 vinyl discs, all 9 symphonies. It's not that we didn't think of it, as you might hear now, but that's a project for the future.
Would have been a Kickstarter of 40,000 or something, right?
I think
insane amount.
Did we ask for that quote? Or was that because I remember for the WTC there it was like 20,000 to produce on vinyl. WTC 1 only on vinyl was like 20,000.
No, that was less. No, you mixing things up. What the 40,000 was for an exclusive box with the 9th Symphony in a very special edition.
Oh yeah.
It's something that was ridiculously interesting to have, like just to look at. But we didn't. I mean, even we are dreamers, but sometimes we have to land with both feet on the planet Earth, right? So,
well, for now, but it's going to happen at some point in the future. That I am sure of. Well, let's say it like this, because I want to produce it for myself, of course, because I now have a turntable myself. So now I want all of our recordings on turntable. So I'm going to convince him that convince Wim. That's what I wanted to say. That we are going to do that, and yeah. That's what I do. Yeah, that's the only reason I support this project, is because I want to produce the stuff for myself, just to get that out of the way. I mean,
good reason. And the main reason why it's not produced, that box, is because of Anya, my wife, because she does the shipping. And she said, have you any idea how I'm getting these boxes shipped?
She's going to kill us.
She's going to kill us, yeah.
That's not a joke.
No,
we had one Kickstarter where she was crying because we had like, what was that? 12 tier levels, because we thought it's a great idea to produce CD and vinyl in the same Kickstarter, and then also mix them all the way around in tier levels. And that was, she cried when she was shipping that. That was ridiculous.
She didn't cry, but she was quiet. She came on our weekly meeting. Said, guys, that's the only time you do this.
You're never going to do that again. And guess what? The next Kickstarter, we had 2 tier levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the Beethoven 5, the Beethoven Symphonies Kickstarter, where we went overboard in different ways. So we are learning our lessons.
Yeah, but it's interesting, and it's true. We do partly the things for ourselves in the sense that, I mean, of course we liked it. If we don't do it, nobody's going to do it, and it's also not so easy. What you're about to hear, the Fifth Symphony, we recorded it 3 times. It was our first recording, still on YouTube, I think, the first one. But just compare with the last recording that's also on YouTube, it's day and night difference. And so it's not so easy to play like this. So you have to develop a way of playing. And then once you're there, I mean, then we recorded it, we reproduce it. Of course, the vinyl discs, I'm not so sure if that's for soon, but we will see about that. Stefan, maybe now we go to the music, right?
I didn't say soon, and yes, we do.
Okay.
Let me just start sharing that the people that saw me waving at the beginning also see now the music.
By the way, Stefan, I'm interrupting you now. You are going to play a recording from Bandcamp, but it's also available on YouTube. Maybe you can do a live search on our channel for Beethoven Fifth Symphony, or if you don't want to do that, we listen from Bandcamp.
No, let's list from Bandcamp, and there is also a possibility. There is even the possibility to listen on Spotify. That's what I remember. So you can go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, you can go to authenticsound.com, to our store, and buy it there. You can buy the whole box there. You can go to Bandcamp, listen 3 times for free, and then buy it there digitally, and then download it in whichever quality you want. So, yeah. There's a lot of things going on.
Because you see us playing, that's the only reason. I forgot to say that to you before we started the podcast. But anyways.
That's true. But let's just start listening, and what you guys will hear is, you will notice that, of course, the authentic sound version of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony First Movement. And let's just start with the opening, and we'll just listen for, I will say, roughly a minute.
Good.
That's going to be a shock for a lot of people, right? If you have never listened to this symphony in whole beat, this would have been a shock for you guys. But I think for the two of us, that was pure enjoyment.
Yeah, but now we have a minute in this tempo. Now let's go quickly to Gardiner, because that will also be a shock.
Yeah.
Or wind instruments, they always come late. I wonder why. So, Stefan, but tell me your experience. As we said many times here in this podcast, you are a mathematician in the first place. That's what you studied. You play some piano, let's say it like that, but you're a little bit of an outsider, came to classical music. So what is your experience? Of course, you're biased, of course, but I mean, it's interesting to hear from you. How do you perceive our version and how you perceive that of Gardiner?
And that's a really interesting question. So just before we dive into all of our opinions and all that kind of stuff, firstly, these are our opinions, and we are talking about the music of Gardiner, but we are in no shape or form wanting to downplay him or go in some kind of direction to say, yeah, he's unable to do these and that. No. I mean, we are talking about this music. We are comparing two recordings. We take him as an example, as a prime example, who also talks about playing in single beat and all these kinds of things. And that's why we talk him, but we talk about his recording. So that's the first thing. And of course, I mean, I think I listened to this recording already before before we were working together, because you recorded the first version in, was that like 2020, 2021, something like that. So that's quite an old experience, you could even say, when we first played that. And it sounds like like two different pieces, two completely different pieces. And what is also interesting, if you look at the description, the tempo description of this, or the character description maybe would be more precise, of this movement, it's Allegro con brio. And that's if I think about Allegro con brio, I'm not thinking of the recording that you and Alberto have made, if I'm very honest. Mm-hmm. It sounds slower. It's even a little bit dragging. It's like, yeah, you understand what's going on. You can listen very well, but it's like, this is dragging a little bit. There is like...
Do you mean dragging in the sense of like you were taking the tempo down even while we're playing, or do you mean like it's just like a little bit more static?
Yeah, maybe static is a better word. Yeah, because dragging, as you very rightly say, means there is some tempo fluctuation. So like speeding up, slowing down, and that's happening in Gardiner, but that's a second comment. But no, it feels static. Maybe that's a better word. It's like, yeah. And that's something that people said about our recording, like, where is the con brio? I don't hear the con brio. I mean, that's a completely different discussion to be had. But if you go to Gardiner, of course, there is an insane amount of energy that if you go back, that's just non-existent. There is nothing of this incredible energy, this movement, this push forward. That's not there in your recording. But there is something different. And it's difficult to describe, and that's probably the time it takes you to get used. If you jump back and forth, and we will do that, it's difficult, but it's also you acclimatize to the other tempo quite quickly, and then you can start listening and enjoying. Mm-hmm. And the incredible part when it comes to Gardiner is when you listen again. The first two motives, he's playing slower, and then he's going to the actual speed of half note 108. I think we measured that before, it was like 92. Mm-hmm. So these first motives are slower, and you really hear that. Yeah. It's like, yeah, there's some kind of pompous opening, and then it's just like, it feels like a train that's just going. It's going through everything. It feels like it's going through walls. And it's just like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. It's just energy moving forward, and you're not even able to comprehend anything. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. So that's interesting what you said. We're going to talk about the notation a little bit in a second. But if you go back to our recording, and of course you miss that pulse, you miss that energy. And if we scroll through the comments of Gardiner's performance right before we came here at the recording of the podcast, and it's like people are just thrilled. They accept the fact that what they hear is the authentic Beethoven, which is actually strange. I mean, the first comment, you can read it maybe again.
Yeah. I can read it. I mean, for the people watching, you can read it for yourself. But it's like the comments are, yeah, feel weird from our perspective, I have to say. But they probably think that they are looking at this very rightly, and they say, well, honestly, after hearing Beethoven perform like this, like he intended, it's almost impossible to listen to other recordings and take them seriously. Yeah. The second one is like, this is. Oh, sorry.
No, read the second one.
This is how Beethoven demanded his Fifth Symphony to be performed, 108 beats per minute, which it's actually not, sorry. Even when he was alive, he was furious that other conductors, musicians were performing it too slow. There's an energy to it that I adore.
Yeah. So this comment is particularly interesting, the previous as well, but did they go on like that? And it's so strange what people write, and it's but that they take Gardiner, of course, at face value. He's an authority, and so people believe what these conductors actually claim to be the historical truth, so to say. And so then they are going to fantasize like even more. They start from that. The first one, they said like, I cannot take any other recording seriously, which is of course a very strange thing to say because you're rejecting like so many recordings of the Fifth Symphony. But I get what she is wanting to say. It's like, okay, you have to have this certain feeling of authenticity if you play like or will or desire to play the music at least remotely like you think that Beethoven played, because otherwise, how are you going to take people seriously if they don't? And in the second one, it says like, yeah, Beethoven often commented or was furious with people who played his music too slow. Then I think like, where does it come from? Because there is not a single remark from Beethoven that he ever made that. The contrary, yes, he was furious when people played his music too fast. And the first question that he had for people when they came into his house, when he knew that that person went to a concert in which his music was played, he said, how were the tempi? And so it's not like, and then the comments never went in the sense like, okay, people play my music too. There was a kind of tendency that music was sped up, like even in Beethoven's time, like an incredible way. And so metronome marks were given in the first place to warn musicians not to play too fast. It's actually incredible when you hear Gardiner struggle with an Allegro con brio. Now, the Allegro con brio, I'm coming back to that. But what I want you to describe, Stefan, first, before we go and dive deeper in this, is like, if you listen to our performance, what do you hear in terms of character? What do you think is the message that Beethoven, if this were the Beethoven symphony that he wrote, if this was what he heard in his head before he started to write that famous theme, what is the character? How would you describe it in a few sentences? I mean, you can talk about color, you can talk about mood, you can talk about like emotional things, whatever you want, but like give us a little bit of a hint what you feel when you listen to that music. And maybe it's a difficult question for a mathematician, I know, because you want to speak about...
I have no feelings. I'm a mathematician. I have no feelings. Sorry.
feelings are not numbers. I mean, they are like a little bit vague. I'm just joking, guys. We know each other very well, so I can make these jokes with Stefan. No, but seriously, go ahead.
No, I mean, maybe it's a good idea to listen to like 15, 20 seconds so that I can listen to it again and really think what's coming up in terms of feelings.
Good.
But I have something I'm thinking of, but let's just re-listen quickly to our recording.
Yeah.
So just to stop it here. So of course, I mean the motive, because I've heard about it so much, it's associated with someone like knocking on your door, fate knocking on your door. That's what the association that is talked about a lot. But it feels quite dark, and it starts off very dramatic. To give some adjectives, it's like it starts off very dramatic, and it starts off with a big bang. It starts off fortissimo, as we can see here, and it's also in four voices, even in a description for one person on piano, because that's what we're looking at here. It's like it starts off really strong and also very sudden. And then it builds.
If you like this podcast, the beginning of this podcast, and you want to listen to the full episode, go over to Substack. There's a link in the description box. Subscribe to Substack, because then you have the full audio version of this podcast. If you want to have the video version, there's also a possibility on Substack to subscribe for $5 per month. Or you can have also the video podcast and support the entire project on our Patreon site. Links to all of these platforms below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. We see each other very soon again. Bye.